Hello guys, to be continuous article about Bitcoin from Google. Let's go. What is needed is an electronic payment system based on cryptographic proof in a state of trust, allowing any two willing parties to transact directly with each other without the need for a third party. Translocation that are completely impractical to reverse would protect sellers from fraud, and routing screw mechanism could easily be implemented to protect buyers. In this paper, we propose a solution to the double spend problem using a peer-to-peer distributed timestamp server to generate computational proof to chronological order to translation. The system is secure as long as honest nodes collectively control more CPU power than any corporation group of the attacker nodes. Number 2, translocation. We define an electronic coin as a chain of digital signatory. Each owner transfers the coin to the next by digitally signing a hash of the previous transaction and the public key of the next owner and adding this to the end of the coin. A peer can verify the signature to vary the chain of ownership. The problem occurs in the peer cannot verify that one of the owners did not double spend the coin. A common solution is to introduce trust control authority or men that check every transaction or double spending. After each transaction, the coin must be returned to the mine to issue new coin, and only coin issued directly from the man and trust not to be double spent. The problem with this solution is that the fate of the entire money system dependent on the company running the man, with every transaction having to go through them just like a bank. We need a way for the pay to know that the previous owner did not sign any earlier transaction for or propose the earliest transaction of that counts. So we don't care about the attempt to double spend. The only way to confirm the absence of the transaction is to be aware of all transaction. In the main-based model, the man was aware of all transaction and decide which arrived first. To accomplish this without the trust party, transaction must be public in 9 cents, and we need a system for participants to agree on the single history of the order in which they were received. The paynet proved that at the time of each transaction, the majority of nodes agreed was it first received. Number 3, time-step server. The solution we propose being with a tempest server. A tempest server works by taking a hash of the block of time to be timestamp and rapidly publishing hash, such as in a newspaper or Usenet post 25. Intent propose that the data must have excited at the time. Obviously, in order to get into the hash, each timeless included the previous timeless in its hash from in time with each educational timeless reversing to once before it. Number 4, proof of work. In implement of distribute time step server on a peer-to-peer base, we will need to use a proof of work system similar to Adam Banks Hashcash rather than newspaper or Usenet post. The proof of work involves scanning for a value that when hashes such as which the hash being with a number of 0 bits. The average will require an exponential in the number of 0 bits required and can be verified by excluding single hash. For our time stamp network, we implement the proof of work by incrementing a node in the block until a value is found that gives the block hash the required 0 bit. As the CPU effort has been expanded to make it satisfy the proof of work, the block can be changed without redoing the work, as later blocks are changed after it. The work to change the block would include redoing all the blocks after it. The proof of work also solves the problem of determining representation in majority decision making. If the majority were based on IP address on veto include be subverted by annihilated allocated many IP. Proof of work is essentially on CPU on veto. The majority decision is represented by the longest chain, which has the great proof of work effort invested in it. If a majority of CPU power is controlled by honest node, the honest chain will grow the fastest and outpace any competing chain. The modifier pass below an attacker would have to route the proof of work of the block and all block after it, and then catch up with the surpass the work of the honest node. We will show later that probability of the slower attack catch up the, the diminished exponentially as subsequent blocks are added. They compensate for increasing hardware speed and varying internet running node over time. The proof of work definitely determined by moving average target and an average number of blocks per hour. If they are generated too fast, they define increase. Number 5. Network. The span around the network are as follows. Number 1. New translocation are broadcast to all nodes. Number 2. Each node collect new translocation into a block. Number 3. Each node works on finding difficult proof of work for its block. Number 4. When a node finds a proof of work, it broadcasts its block at all nodes. Number 5. Node accept the block only if all translocations are valid and not already spent. Number 6. Node express their acceptance of the block by working on creating the next block in the chain using the hash of the accept block as the previous hash. Node always consider the line chain to be the correct one and will keep working on extending it. If two nodes broadcast different versions of the next block simultaneously, some nodes may receive one or the other phrase. In the case they work on the phrase on they receive but save the other branch in the case it become longer. The tie will be broken while the next proof of work is found and unbridged becomes longer. The node that were working on the other branch will then switch to the longer on. New translocation broadcasts don't necessarily need to reach all nodes. As long as they reach many nodes, they will get into the block before long. Block broadcasts are also trained off the repeat message. If a node does not receive a block, it will request it when it receives the next block and realizes a missed out. Number 6. Insensitive. Beconvention. The first translocation block is a special translocation that starts a new queen owned by the creator of the block. This adds an incentive for nodes to support the network and provide a way to initially distribute two coins into circulation. Since there is no central authority to issue them, the state addition of the constant of amount of new coin is analogous to gold miner expanding resource to add gold circulation. In our case, it is CPU time and electricity that is expanded. The incentive can also be found with translocation fee if the output value of the translocation is less than its input value. The difference is the translocation fee that is added to the sensitivity value of the block containing this translocation. Once a predetermined number of coins have entered circulation, the incentive may help encourage nodes to stay honest. If you create a attack able to assemble more CPU power than all the honest nodes, you would have to choose between using it to defraud people by stealing back his payment, or using it to generate new coin. He out defines more profitable to play by the rules, such rules that favor him with more new coin than everyone else combined, than the undermine the system and the viability of his own best. Number 7. Reclaim this space. As the last transaction in coin bright under enough block, they spend transaction before it can be discarded to save this space. To facilitate this without breaking the block, hash transaction or hash in the market 3725 with only the root including the block hash. All block can then be compacted by stopping off branches of the tree. The entire hash do not need to be stored. A block header with a transaction would be about byte if you suppose that block or generate very 10 minute 18 byte 645 365 MB per pair. With computer system typically selling this as the and more low preceding contract growth per year. A strike should not be a problem even if the block header must be kept in the memory. I'm sorry. Number 8. Simplified payment verification. It is possible to verify payment without running for a network node, a user-only node, to keep copy on the log header of the longer proof of work chain, which they can get by querying network node until his convinced he has the longest chain and obtain the market branch limiting transaction to block its time step in. He can check the transaction for himself, but by linking this place in the chain, he can see that a network node has accepted and block added after a further confirm the network has accepted it. As such, the verification reliable as long as honest node controls the network, but is more vulnerable if the network is overpowered by an attacker. The network node can verify transaction for themselves. The simplified method can be followed by an attacker for breaked transaction for as long as the attacker can continue to overpower the network. On strategy, the protect against this will be accept already from network node when they detect an invited block, prompting the users